With content viewing excessively growing across tablets and other devices and mobile phones, appointment viewing has actually decreased a lot, and we're going to expect a great conversation from our two guests right now. Please welcome Maria Garrido. You have a very long title, so I'm going to read this because this is a lot of words. I'm not good with
French.
words.
Of course they have. They do long titles.
Are you ready? Here we go. Chief Insights Officer at Havas Group and Senior Vice President for Brand Marketing at Vivendi.
Well done.
How did I do?
Perfect.
Anna said Garrido correctly. Wow, I'm on a roll. Anna Angelic, Executive Brand Consultant at Montclair.
So that makes it simple.
Thank you for your simplicity. So let's just jump right in. Where is streaming going, and where is appointment content not going? Where are we so far?
If I can, 2 points I'd like to make on that. I think there's still some this morning in the conversation that was on the stage. They were talking about how appointment content still has, or appointment TV still has some magic to it. There's the anticipation of waiting for that episode. There's the discussion of the people that sit around in a community to watch that episode and then talk about it at the cooler the next day at work. Now we're in the streaming world where it's very much a solitary experience for people. Even if you talk about it the next day at work, there's still that solitary approach. On the streaming bit, there's so much content out there, and even more platforms that are coming, that it's just massive overload. People spend on average an hour a day trying to even figure out what to watch. It's very frustrating.
That's very true.
Is it? I would say, for me, streaming is, for example, when you think the most popular shows, appointment viewing is media events. So there's go back 2,000 years, there are arenas, and then, everyone is watching one thing, and that is something that is an event-like thing. When you have sports, when you have Oscars, even even that's maybe not as popular. But when you have streaming, I would say it's it's streaming everywhere, and it's always on. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you go deep down that rabbit hole on Instagram. So the question becomes, is it are you really enjoying the show for Instagram and for the conversation and for the wiki of Ice and Fire? Or are you enjoying it for the really episodes that are happening in that limited period of time?
Well, there's also, with great story comes the idea of FOMO. You don't want to miss out, or you don't want the spoiler alerts, you want to experience it for yourself. Are stories being crafted more for one platform or one experience versus another?
I think what platforms have allowed, and the massive diversity of platforms, have allowed the content to be more diverse. A platform like Netflix can reach only 2,000 people at a global level and not worry about the media space they have to sell against those 2,000 people. So it has really created much more diversity in the kinds of content that's out there for people to watch.
That, and I would add to that, I would pay attention to social processes and social dynamics that is happening around that content. Because when that content is released, and then how the dialogue really happens, and what is the user-generated content and fan content, when you look at it, that creates a much more diverse, rich ecosystem. So it's not anymore from one to many or even one to one, it's many to many. So for me, the social dynamics of influence that is happening around content is what I think the brands have yet to capitalize on.
So says the doctor of sociology.
Guilty as charged.
Well, I'm curious as to what you understand about I'm going to get a little lofty here, but the human condition, right? What was our tribal behavior from decades ago or centuries ago that still exists today when it comes to storytelling and engagement?
Absolutely. I mean, we use story, every great experience tells us a story about the world around us, about ourselves in relation to that world. So when you see the content that is really popular, that's you have it can be dragons, or it can be I don't know where, San Francisco, or it can be whatever set up. It's going to tell eternal story about love, about honor, about I don't know, family and so on. So those stories really resonate well. But what they really kind of get is all those sub tribes, because you see how people reflect and how people interpret the stories. That's where the magic is, because that interpretation, there is not one way how to read the media text if you want to get all academic. But for me, it's in Game of Thrones, for example, or Big Little Lies, that is sort of like what you see as the main dynamic there. So, and that's what you see as the main dynamic is going to make you like connect you with your tribe. There is no mass audience. There never was. But now it's really visible, all those like sub-niches.
And because of digital and social media, people are interacting in real time while they're watching the episode of Game of Thrones or Big Little Lies. They're actually talking to other members of their community.
I need to. I love it. Dude, don't get
There's a lot of people who are multi-screening, at the same time on the community while they're watching the episode.
Is there a space for brands to play in this ecosystem? Because it's hard. It's hard to figure out where you inject a brand conversation in sort of this dissected context.
The brands need to be invited in that conversation. That's for me the first thing. That they need to be invited, or they need to observe and add value in a certain way, or like participate in a conversation, or provide platform. Like advertising is not going to work in my Instagram feed.
Unless it's the accidental Starbucks cup left in the Game of Thrones episode.
I don't think they have a choice.
Was that on purpose? Or
No, I don't know.
I mean, what's the conspiracy theory here?
Would have been smart if they did.
Yeah.
And Daenerys Targaryen got an extra check.
That disappeared. Now it's like 5 years later. It's like conspiracy. You have you read about it? We are going over the rails.
No, and I don't think brands have a choice anymore because regular advertising doesn't work. You have 420 million people who have ad blockers on their phones. Thanks to platforms like Netflix, people are used to ad-free models, especially younger generations. I think there's a lot of lessons that the brand world can take from the entertainment world, who is in the business of emotionally engaging people. They have to take those best practices and apply them to their brands.
Right, but I'm thinking about the Burger King and Game of Thrones for the throne. They had a special burger, and I don't know how that has worked, but they claimed it was popular. It was not. I would normally say it was an unbelievably offensive, but it wasn't for some reason. It kind of was at the right time at the right place, and I can't believe that I'm actually defending like this brand entertainment integration. But for some reason, I guess that the fans, that was audience synergy. So I think audience synergy is, or how do you design for social distribution? If you have something that's Instagrammable or something like that, or if you have some content that's shareable for intrinsic value. So I would say, yeah, that would be.
Well, I don't want to just stop at visual content, right? Music is another area of streaming experiences, and I think the immediate connection to a music or a song or an artist is a little bit different than it is to a short form or long form piece of visual content. What are your takes on that?
I think all forms of entertainment content have lessons to teach the brand world about how to engage people emotionally. And I'm not talking about slapping an artist onto your brand and hoping that that's going to have a positive halo effect of what you're trying to do. It isn't always about entertainment. Certain industries, people want content that's educational. They want content that's inspirational. Healthcare is a great example. Healthcare isn't about, I'm going to take the celebrity and slap it on and invite you to a concert.
Right.
It really is about we need inspirational.
Spokesperson, and you're going to buy your
all the time. We need to think of more intelligent
from
ways.
that doesn't matter. It's like, but
no,
yeah,
there are more intelligent ways to use artists, whether they be music artists or fashion artists or the theatrical artists, for the sake of the brand.
Right. Well, you've got that idea of community, right, where the fans will go out to see the artist, and they want to have a visceral and touch, feel, see a multi-sensory experience with said content.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, there is always a step back. So it always is. What is the role of this content in relation to my audience? What do I want this content to achieve? Do I want to excite them? Do I want to celebrate an aspect of their life? What do I want to do? And how does that fit within my wider business and brand objectives? Correct. So now when you have a Miley Cyrus, a music artist, and Stella McCartney, a fashion artist, they're collaborating on Miley Cyrus' new single release with this collection. So I think ideas can live, like what streetwear culture and what actually internet culture these days taught us is that ideas can live in many forms. It can be a tangible as a t-shirt with Supreme. It can be like a single, or it can be like a piece of digital content.
And content goes beyond what we in this industry consider content.
Totally.
In the eyes of the average consumer, it can be everything from like a loyalty magazine to a VIP experience. I mean, it goes really what the breadth of content is big.
Invite-only experience like LVMH is doing in their chateaus in France. Like anything is content. Some sort of, because experience economy sort of wipes the distinctions between categories. So like hospitality or fashion or retail or healthcare, they can't afford anymore to be unidimensional. Winners are those who really design their organizations and their business models for the experience market that rewards business models that are built around transformational experiences.
And ironically, what's happening is because we're all stuck to this thing in our hand 24 hours a day, people are lacking human interaction. And more, especially the younger generations, the Gen Z that are coming behind, are actually asking brands to give them opportunities to interact with real human beings because they desperately need it.
That's like luxury these days. It really is. Like when you have privacy rich and privacy poor, and you want to have like those like white glove butler experience that's a human being can provide. No sort of personalization and
AI
like, exactly is going to give you that. It's going to happen to you. They're going to have your like data footprint.
Right.
Have we maxed out on platforms? It seems like every other day there's a new company funded and getting ready to launch, and they're going to provide XYZ type of content. And like you said earlier, it takes an hour just to funnel through what you're going to select to watch.
Well, this morning I was watching the conversation on stage, and I thought, oh God, here comes another platform. And then he went, we have all the historical MGM films from the 1930s and 40s, and I went, wait a minute, I don't have that available anywhere else. so I changed my mind. But honestly, the data. 72% or 78% of Americans have a major pain point with discovery. There's plenty of platforms that are coming out there that are trying to consolidate all of the different platforms out there. So when you're looking for something specific to watch, they can tell you where to go. This is a developing area because there's just so much out there. It's hard to find.
Because you had two-sided markets, which is build supply and demand, and now it's curation. Who is going to come as an interface to curate all that supply based on the data they have about what you like. So I'm obsessed with TikTok, speaking of new platforms. TikTok, doing in China.
Yes.
So because they're like effectively wiping away influencers, because when you start seeing just content. Influencers can be made. In a situation where influencers can be made, then it's like, extraordinary talent. Well, no, like they can be just like some kid in China who is at the right time at the right place with the right hashtag. And I think that's a big turning point for brands.
Well, thank you both for your amazing energy and insights. This has been great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for great questions.